My family wants to reconnect after 6 years, so this is a long story and English is not my first language, please bear with me. I, 45M, was married to my high school sweetheart Sarah 45F. We had 4 daughters, Jane 24F, Tori 22F, Brianna 21F, Claire 18F. I met Sarah when we were 14 and we started dating right away. My parents loved Sarah and she became like the daughter they never had. I remember my father sitting me down and giving me advice: have good communication with each other, think before you make any decision. That type of stuff. Me and Sarah were dating for 7 years at the time. When we found out she was pregnant with Jane, we were both over the moon, got married soon after and went on to have our beautiful family. The only problem was my brother Jack 43M. Jack always had a crush on Sarah. It kind of harmed my relationship with him, but I tried to let it go because he was my brother and because Sarah also knew and had reassured me that she didn't had feelings for him. My limit was when Jack found out about mine and Sarah's engagement. He confessed his love for her and tried to convince her to leave me. She didn't and told me. At this point I was mad at Jack, and I was ready to kick his ass had Sarah asked me not to. I was ready to cut my brother out of my life. It took Sarah and my parents 68M and 66F to convince me not to. My marriage with Sarah was amazing. We had, like any other couple, our ups and our downs, but I wouldn't change anything about it. We were a passionate couple who loved each other and their children more than anything. Mine and my brother's relationship improved after the incident, and I truly believed he had gotten over his crush on Sarah. Little did I know that he didn't only still had a crush on Sarah but also was planning to break us up. One day, more than 6 years ago, I had arrived home after a week away due to job reasons and found my daughters, my wife and my brother in the living room. Sarah and my daughters were crying, and when they saw me they started to scream at me. Sarah asked, "How could you have done this to me?" When I asked what she meant she said, "Cheating." I was surprised she accused me of cheating. Never in 25 years we had been together I cheated on her. I asked what made her believe I cheated on her. She showed me some pictures and texts that proved I had cheated on her with a colleague. I asked where she got this proof and my brother jumped in saying that this coworker, who also was friends with him, had confessed to him and sent him the proof. I started crying and begged Sarah to believe me. I told her that this was Jack's doing. She slapped me in the face and kicked me out. Before I left, Jane and Tori called me all kind of names. The one who pained me the most was, "You are a disgrace to our family." For a long time I tried to make Sarah and the girls see reason and to make them understand that I would never cheat, but sadly it was all in vain. My parents disowned me and my dad said if I was a man I would make the divorce easy. Before the end of the year me and Sarah were already divorced and my daughters didn't want to see me. In the beginning of 2017, Sarah and Jack got married. My daughters sent me a message saying that they hated me, and didn't want anything to do with me and that they had a new father figure in their lives. It was hard, but with a lot of therapy I learned to move on. I always held on hope my family would find the truth, but I learned to live with the possibility they never would. 5 years went by without any contact with anyone from my family until a few days ago. I received a call from an unknown number. When I picked up I said, "Hello," and I heard sobs from the other side. It was my mom. She said they were sorry and wanted to meet me. I asked why and my mom said my family had found the truth about everything, but this was a matter to be discussed personally. I told my mom that when or if I felt ready to meet them I would call her, but I didn't want to be contacted by no one until or unless I said something back. She told she understood and that she missed me. We said our goodbyes, but to be honest I still don't know what I should do. Update. A few people have asked me for an update, so here it is. So I arrived at my parents' Saturday morning. I rang the door and my mom opened it. She started crying and hugged me. It was a bit awkward for me. My dad gave me a handshake and I got in. My mom started to trying to make small talk. She asked me how I was. She then commented that I looked way better and that I lost weight. I replied, "When you're depressed you forget to eat." I then asked how they found out. my mom said that Jack was drunk and had an argument with Sarah and something like, "I didn't plan all this so I would take with your shit." Sarah then forced him to confess. Sarah and my daughters wanted to contact me, but my mom said it would be better if just she contacted me. I started laughing. My dad was a little mad, and asked me, "What's so funny?" I said that my brother probably spent years trying to separate me and Sarah and blew it all up. All he had to was be quiet and he could continue with his beautiful life. I then asked my parents if they could imagine, how would our lives would be if they, and Sarah didn't try to convince me to forgive my brother, after he tried to convince Sarah to run with him. My dad started crying. It was the first time in my 45 years of life that I had seen my old man crying. He started to apologize, saying he was an awful father but that he, my mom, Sarah and my daughters were all sorry. I was able to not cry and I told them that I would love to reconcile but it would take time. My mom asked me if she could give the green light to Sarah to contact me. I said yes. They then asked more about my life as they wanted to know how I was doing. Overall, it was better than I expected. The next day, Sarah sent me a message and asked me if she could call me. I replied a few hours later that she could. Not even 5 minutes later she called me. She asked me how I was. I told her that given the circumstances I could be worse. I asked how she and our daughters were. She said that they are not so good. After my brother confessed, Sarah and my daughters felt remorseful and kicked my brother out. I asked Sarah a few questions. Why did she marry Jack so quickly and how come she didn't believe me? She started crying. She said that during and after our divorce, my brother had been her rock. Sarah said that they eventually started dating and they got married because, and I was shocked to hear this, she got pregnant. I was a bit taken back when I heard it. I asked if she could repeat OT and she did. I told her that I needed time. I warned that the chances of us getting back together are not looking good and I didn't want her to have false hopes. She cried a bit more but said they understood. She ended the conversation with a, "I love you, I just said goodbye." Update 2. My mom was the bridge of communication between me and my daughters. I messaged her that I wanted to meet my daughters in a public place. She recommended a park and we met yesterday. When I got there, my daughters had already arrived. I only had a few seconds to process seeing them for the first time in more than half a decade, because Jane, my 24-year-old, jumped on me. She was crying and kept saying she was sorry and asked me to don't hate them. We stayed hugged for a few minutes. It seemed like she didn't want to let me go. It took Claire, 18, to take Jane off me. Tori, 22, asked me how I was. I looked at her for a few seconds. I was still surprised to see how much she had grown in the last years, but I also kind of saw the last 6 years flashing through my eyes. For a while after the divorce, I used to look of pictures of me, Sarah and the girls together and remembering the good old days, and started wondering if living was still worth it. After a few seconds, I told Tori I had gotten a cat. I said that he was a great cat and my best friend and if it wasn't for him I wouldn't be here speaking to her. As soon as I said this, all my daughters started crying. I was looking at them, crying in the inside but somehow still able to maintain my posture. They all said they were sorry for not believing me and begged me to forgive them. I told them I still loved them more than anything but it would take time for me to truly forgive them, and that they would have to show me by their actions and not their words how sorry they were. I noticed Jane was wearing a ring. I asked her about it. She told me she had gotten married to her long-time boyfriend 2 years ago. At this point I was about to burst in tears knowing I had missed my daughter's wedding. I just asked if he walked down the aisle and she quietly said yes. I just couldn't do it anymore and started crying my heart out. I had to sit down. That a-hole stole everything I held dear, and robbed me of one of the moments I was longing the most for, walking my daughter down the aisle. I was ugly crying and I could tell Jane was sad as well. I told my daughters that I needed a few days, but I would like to go on family therapy with them. They agreed. They gave me their phone number, we said our goodbyes and I hugged every single one of them tightly for a long time.